So Daniel Jeremiah has actually just updated his top 50 rankings. Today we're going to be reacting to these top 50 and talking about some of my expectations for the list and just reacting to what we can see. So why is this important? Well, Daniel Jeremiah is a pretty good intermediary between the media and actual NFL teams as a former scout. So between his conversations and his own evaluations, it's a pretty good measurement for how the league's going to view a lot of these players. Now, keep in mind that it is maybe more of just a generalization, because all it takes is one team to like a player more than the rest of those teams for that player to go higher than you'd expect. So we're going to go ahead and react to this top 50. Things I hope to see happen. I hope to see the defensive tackles well represented. Guys like Devontae Wyatt are certainly going to be in the top 50, but I want to see Travis Jones as a mainstay, hopefully near that top 35, top 40. Perrion Winfrey I would like to see in there as well. And then I think we're going to see a lot of edge rushers. I think the receivers are going to be fairly well represented as well. And I'm really interested to see how many safeties get in. I think we might see one or two tight ends at the most, one or two running backs at the most. Also, good time for a reminder, use code BENGAL on SeatGeek. If you're buying tickets for anything, you'll get $20 off. You're going to the games anyway, might as well get $20 off using code BENGAL. Name of this channel, BENGAL. And I'm very interested to see where these quarterbacks are going to land. From the title of the tweet, we can see that two are moving up while two are moving down. I'm excited to see who those are. I think Desmond Ridder will be moving up. I think Malik Willis will be moving up. I think Kenny Pickett might be moving down. I don't know. It's actually crazy to say. I'm not really sure. So we're going to go ahead and curb the speculation and just dive in, see what's going on. And the plan is, as I say now, for myself and Daniel Jeremiah to collaborate in some way in early April, whether that's like a joint mock draft or just, you know, NFL draft talk in general. We'll have to see. I'd like to have it be fairly organized in some way. So let me know down in the comment section what you'd like to see. And we'll start with Aidan Hutchinson. I think this is pretty much the consensus right now. The only real flaw with Aidan Hutchinson is the shorter arms. And the reason why that's important is getting first contact in those trench battles is so important. And Hutchinson does have the technical ability and the speed and certainly the general athleticism to kind of get around that. Swipes are his best move from what I can see. Kind of like the Bosa move set. But yeah, Hutchinson definitely very good. Number one doesn't seem crazy at all. Ike Mekwonu at number 2. I like this. You know, former guard, we talked about him a lot. He is someone that is extremely great as a run blocker. I don't want to just read powerful here, but that's kind of his main thing. He's a mauler in the run game, physical run blocker, and even though sometimes he oversets in pass pro, like he's still developing. He's still moving to tackle, and he was really good last year. So his best football could be ahead of him. Sauce Gardner into the top 3. I've been talking a lot about Ahmad Gardner recently. He's someone that moves way better than you'd expect because of his size. He's like 6'3", 6'4". I think he was like 6'3"-ish at the combine. And if you watch him on tape, he moves like someone much smaller. And the big thing with that is the agility. How quick can you flip your hips? Very smooth, very fluid. He absolutely smothers receivers. Sauce Gardner in the top 3, I think, is an extremely fair ranking. Kyle Hamilton has dropped to 4. Now, Hamilton is really good. My only real concern with him is I don't know what he's going to do. Now, I think if you view him in the Derwin James aspect, where he's just going to do everything. He's going to move around, field safety to, strong safety to occasional box player, even though he didn't really do that much at Notre Dame, to slot guy, to matching up with tight ends. I think he can do a bunch of different things, but he's not really an over-the-top single high safety. He doesn't have the speed. And that, to me, was not evident by his 40 time, but just watching him play, he doesn't have that amazing over-the-top speed, and he will get burnt deep at times. He can't really carry those routes down the field as far as I've been able to tell, but his closing speed's exceptional. He plays his best football when the play breaks down. He's a really unique prospect. I don't think he is the best player in the draft, as a lot are saying. I could see that from highlights, from just watching the games. He makes these splash plays, but you really watch him, he's still a great player, great prospect, but I don't think the best in the draft. So 4 4 seems extremely fair. Garrett Wilson up to 5. I know DJ's really, really high on Garrett Wilson. I think Wilson's really good. Physical is his kind of biggest trait, is what you can say. Good out of breaks, and he ran really well at the combine as well. It doesn't really quite play up to that speed, but it was a really good time for him. So his draft stock could be rising as a result. He's definitely really good. But there's some guys that like Olave more than Wilson, and this receiver class is extremely contentious. Like, people don't really seem to have any type of consensus about who's the best and what that top 5 ranking would look like between Garrett Wilson, and we'll throw in Chris Olave, Drake London, Treylon Burks, Jamison Williams, and then there's some other guys that are right in that conversation that, where do they fit in? So it's a really interesting conversation to be had. Trayvon Walker up 4 to 6, obviously completely dominated the combine. He was the big story. Just crazy that someone his size, and that's height and weight, with his arm length as well, was as crazy fast and could move as fluidly as he does. Wild stuff. We just really haven't seen him as a true edge rusher. You know, he's moved around a lot for Georgia. We haven't seen him in those one-on-one pass rush situations coming off the edge. So his pass rush is, I don't want to say entirely projection, but it's a lot of projection and guessing that you can develop him. So 6 is certainly bullish on him. Could be a really good player. Already is going to impact the defense in multiple ways just because of all these different things that he can do. But from a pure pass rush perspective, it's a little bit weird. Number 7, Evan Neal. And I guess we see 8 as well. Yeah, I don't know that Neal is so drastically different from Ekwonu. Just like Trayvon Walker probably has his best football ahead of him, I think you can put Evan Neal in the same type of class, where he's a great athlete with rare size and rare athleticism to go along with that. He has experience playing all across the offensive line. I mean, you could really see him starting at guard right away, if not, you know, playing tackle immediately. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes and what the plan is. Obviously, you'd want him to be your big mainstay at offensive tackle, whether that's left or right, depending on what team drafts him. But, you know, probably left tackle. That's that big, valuable offensive line position. But if there's not a spot right away and you see the value with Neal, maybe start him at guard right away. He has the ability to do that. He wouldn't necessarily have to have that responsibility that comes with playing tackle, even though I'm not saying guard's not important, but just you can be exposed a little bit more when you're on an island, right? Drake London's interesting. He's up 5. Yeah, he's like a big slot. Can move outside as well. Moves pretty well for his size. He's not quite as big as we thought. I think he's closer to 6'4" than 6'5" based on his combine measurement, if I recall correctly. Yeah, he's definitely really good. Red zone monster, and I think that's where he's going to make a lot of his money. But seeing him in the top 10, certainly a very bullish ranking as well. Number 9 is Jermaine Johnson. I'm so glad to see him moving up. Jermaine Johnson, to me, is one of the best players in the entire draft. I think top 10 is right around where he belongs. And that's just not saying what he did as a player at even Georgia or Florida State, where he's developed. He's already a great run defender. He's still developing as a pass rusher despite the double-digit sacks last year for Florida State. But when you saw him dominate one-on-ones at the Senior Bowl, be completely unblockable, and what felt like the best player there that we could practice is in Mobile, like, it's clear that he continues to get better and better and better. And everyone keeps saying that the one thing he really lacks is elite athleticism. And I don't know what they're watching, because Jermaine Johnson is a really, really good athlete. And if you're going to say elite, I think Jermaine Johnson's certainly in that class. He is a really, really good athlete with great size and great ability to rush the passer now. He's already a great run defender, and from what we saw in the one-on-ones, he's getting better and better and better. And why I value that so much is, like, a guy like Terry McLaurin, for example, on the other side of the football, like, we didn't really see him dominate at Ohio State, and then he was uncoverable at the Senior Bowl, and that's the best players in college football pretty much from a year ago, the top seniors, right? And no one could cover him. And then with Jermaine Johnson, nobody could block him. And there were some good players at the Senior Bowl as well. So he could be a pretty good player right away. I think we're only seeing a guy that's getting better and better and better. And if you're looking for a really good athlete who's already going to be a great run defender, who is still developing as a pass rusher, I think Jermaine Johnson's right up there in the conversation with Trayvon Walker. Kayvon Thibodeaux is at number 10. Yeah, I do think it's a little bit low. Thibodeaux is so good to me when I watch him. I know the ankle tightness is a thing that I've seen before with Kayvon, but man, he is still developing, but he is such a great athlete, and I feel like his tape looks really good as well. Like, he is often way faster than a lot of the offensive linemen designed to block him, and that's not always a tackle. It could be a guard as well. From what I saw a lot at Oregon, he aligned in the 4-eye, which is that inside as opposed to outside the tackle, and that's way better for run D and run fits and things like that. But it's not exactly like this prime position to get after the quarterback, yet Kayvon Thibodeaux was still able to eat in a lot of those situations because he was just quicker and stronger than a lot of his opposition. And yeah, he's still developing the move sets as well, but man, I really do like Kayvon Thibodeaux. I still think he's one of the best players in the entire draft. 10 is lower than I would have him, but again, DJ's a professional. Number 11 is Jordan Davis, up 6. Yeah, he dominated the combine. And as I've said before, like, Jordan Davis is a freak athlete, but what is he going to do in the NFL? Again, it's a little bit of projection. We don't really know because we haven't really seen him be some elite pass rusher from the interior. He's just not that type of player. We haven't seen it. Now, with his elite testing, you would hope that he can get there. The main knock on him is that he plays about 20 snaps a game, which is less than you'd want, but he was also on an elite Georgia defensive line where they could afford to take him off the field to bring in Jalen Carter. They already had Devontae Wyatt. You have these elite edge rushers in there as well. Like, you didn't have to have Jordan Davis play all the time if you didn't want to. You get really creative with the guys that you got on the field, and we just haven't really seen him play a ton, so stamina is a bit of a question mark, but is it? Tough to say. I think managing his weight is going to be really important as well, because he was a much lighter player at the combine than what he played on Saturdays at Georgia. So there are question marks with weight management. If he can stay lean, you know, for his unreal size at nose tackle, which is still like 340, you know, he could be really, really good. But what if he doesn't? That's a question mark. And effort at times was a concern, which you can go back to the stamina thing where sometimes he's like taking plays off. But I don't know. Jordan Davis is, again, a lot of projection to me where he could become this amazing player because he has rare size and athletic ability. But will he ever unlock and untap that potential? It's going to be interesting to see. Number 12 is Devin Lloyd, down 3. Didn't have a great combine. I keep referencing the combine, by the way, because this is the first rankings after the combine, and I think that might be factored in a little bit. Didn't run particularly well, and sometimes it's not so much a guy's dropping, but it's other guys rising up, and it's just kind of the natural way. Devin Lloyd's really, really good. I think it's still a big conversation between him and Nicoby Dean, although they're going to do different things for you. It just depends. What do you prefer? Do you prefer like a Sam linebacker like Devin Lloyd projects to be? Or do you prefer Nicoby Dean, who's like a hybrid Mike Will linebacker? Probably a Will. Lloyd has some pass rush chops to him as well. I think Darius Leonard is kind of like that comp you're looking for in terms of what his role would end up being. And they're similar athletes as well, similar size. Lloyd might be a little bit bigger, but he's a unique player. And does he end up going this high in the draft? Probably not, but it'll be interesting to see. And there's Nicoby Dean at 13, right behind. Yeah, he's undersized in terms of height and arm length. As a result, only 5'11" to 6 foot. Arms are shorter than you'd like, which can be a problem when defending the run because first contact's big. You got to disengage from those blocks, and first contact is super important to do so. But Nicoby Dean's got unbelievable ability to diagnose where the football's going, and he's got unbelievable size, instincts, and quickness to make those plays. Dean's really, really good. But these are not the same player. They play the same position of linebacker, but they're not going to do nearly the same role in the NFL from what I would expect. But yeah, great athlete. I think size is not as important as many are saying. Trent McDuffie at 14. Man, I love Trent McDuffie. I think he's right up there near Sauce Gardner. But again, I don't know that they're going to do the exact same thing. I think ideally, in my view, Trent McDuffie could be one of the best nickel corners in the league. To play in the overhang and occasionally blitz. He's got tremendous closing speed. He really loves to take on ball carriers. Like, he's not afraid to tackle. He really has that willingness, and he's good on the outside too. Like, the size isn't ideal per se, but I don't think it's a problem at all. His technique is so great. The effort's so great. He can do everything and anything you want him to do. Pound for pound, McDuffie might end up being one of the best players in this draft when all is said and done. If I had to bet on anybody being a really solid NFL player, it would be Trent McDuffie. And that's exactly what this says, basically. Overall, McDuffie's one of the safest players in the draft. I think that's extremely fair. I think that's exactly as I view him. And I have a strange comp for Trent McDuffie that you wouldn't really expect. And I've been talking, this has been corroborated by a friend of mine too, Andre Weingarten, if you're watching. We like Trent McDuffie to Budda Baker. And that's not exactly because they do the same thing, but it's play style outside of just being a true corner. Like, Budda Baker, we know, is a safety, but his ability to move around and defend the run, McDuffie can do those things, but he can also be a boundary corner. So really unique player. Stingley at 15. It remains one of the toughest projections in the entire draft. Freshman Derek Stingley is one of the best corners that we've seen in the draft for a while. Unbelievable player. Sophomore and junior Derek Stingley fighting with injury and effort being a huge problem, especially in 2021. You don't know what you're getting. And that's a big problem. Because if you get the healthy, hardworking Derek Stingley from his freshman year at LSU, he is a top 5 player in the draft. No question to me. Sophomore and especially junior Derek Stingley, he's not even a first round guy. So I know that seems crazy, but that's why he's dropping a little bit in these, not only the rankings, but in the mocks as well. You just don't know exactly what you're getting. 16, Chris Olave up 10. Ran pretty well, sub 4.4. Real smooth mover is what we see all the time with him, but it's extremely accurate. He just is gliding out there on the field, and he's one of the better deep threats in the entire class. It doesn't look like he's running all that fast until he runs by you. Deep ball tracking, excellent. Olave at 16 seems a little bit high because I prefer Jamison Williams. I think he has bigger play potential, but coming off injury, we see Jamison Williams actually is just the next rank below. But this is unique ranking, up 10 into the top 16. Olave may be guaranteed first round pick. Number 17 we saw is Jamison Williams, also up 10. Seems like his rehab is on a pretty good track, and he might be back for the start of the season. Maybe not preseason, but maybe. Like, he's rehabbing extremely quickly, and yeah, we saw a breakout season, so you know, some people might be a little bit lower on him because we've only seen 1 year coming off injury. But man, he is one of the fastest players in the entire draft, and just plain and simple, most people cannot cover him. And not that he's Tyreek Hill, because that's not a good comparison, but he has that same type of game-breaking speed, even if he's not in the same Tyreek Hill speed tier, because nobody is. But Jamison Williams can fly. He's got good size. He is skinny, you know, and that's coming from me, who's skinnier than anybody. But for the same reason that you might have been lower on Devontae Smith because of his size and being a little bit skinnier, Jamison Williams is as well. But I don't really know that it's a big problem. The only injury we've seen is him, you know, making a cut and tearing his ACL, which isn't really any type of a product of weight. So kind of a freak injury. Those things happen. Will he be as explosive, as fast, as dynamic as he was before injury? I think nowadays you can come off of an ACL and be great. So I don't really have too many concerns there. 18 is George Carloftus, down 2. Now, I heard that NFL guys were a little bit lower on George Karlaftis, but the power is there. He's a good run defender. His arms, I believe, are a little bit shorter as well, but he's got an array of rush moves that'll go to. Plays just real strong. It's hard not to like George Carloftus as well. I don't know that he has like this crazy high ceiling like some of the other pass rushers do, but George Karloftis, in a similar way to Trent McDuffie, I just think he's going to be a pretty good player. So 18 feels fine. 19, I love to see Daxton Hill here. I feel like people are a little bit lower on him, but to me, he's a first-round player, like pretty clearly. When you talk about a guy that can be a deep safety, that can play in the slot, man, Daxton Hill is incredible. He's this great athlete. I know he didn't test amazingly well. I think everyone expected his vert to be closer to 40 inches, which is insane. It was more like 33, if I remember. But I don't really care. He has the speed. He has the ability. He can do a bunch of different things. And I think if you're looking for just a DB, it's Daxton Hill. That's your guy that you can move around and really get creative. And I don't know that he's just a safety. Slot corner. I think he could even play on the outside if you wanted to. I think he did that in high school. So he's just a good player. And top 20, I think, is extremely fair. I put out on TikTok. I'm trying to get into that. Get a younger audience. And I said Daxton Hill. I mean, I think this guy's going to be a first-round pick. And I don't really see him in the first round too often, but he is really, really good. And I think I've mocked him to the Eagles at 19, and people have been low on that. But it's like, I don't think you understand just how good this player is. To get to 20, it's Devontae Wyatt, up 9. Extremely fair. I think he's a lock for a first-round pick. He's a little bit older, but you could say that about, a lot of the players in this class, like Boye Mafe, who might end up going high, like Jermaine Johnson's a little bit older at this point. There are a number of players who are at that 23, 24 years old, just because with the extra COVID year, guys went back. You have a lot of seniors, redshirt seniors, extra year seniors. But Devontae Wyatt is really, really good. He's the best pass rusher of any interior defensive lineman in this class, which is more valuable than a nose tackle. And the reason that is, no disrespect to Jordan Davis, is because there are a lot more guys who can take up space and eat blocks and even push the pocket than there are that can be a true interior disruptor the way Devontae Wyatt can be. It's tougher to find these guys than it is a guy who can play Jordan Davis's role. And that's not to say that you can find Jordan Davis's, because no one's got that size and that speed and that strength and that explosiveness. No one has it. But Jordan Davis is slow off the ball as a pass rusher. We haven't really seen him flash any type of ability to get his hands going and work to the QB. But Devontae Wyatt can. It's just rare to find those players. So on my final big board, will I have Devontae Wyatt ahead of Jordan Davis? I probably will. And a lot of you won't like that, because all we've heard is how great Jordan Davis is. But it's not even a knock on Jordan Davis. It's just Devontae Wyatt's really, really, really good. And should be getting more hype. So seeing him go up 9 is nice. Traylon Burks down 7 to 21. But I don't really have a problem with his 4-ish testing. I feel like people, thought, oh, he's going to be the next like DK Metcalf. He's going to run 4 3s, 4 4s. And he was a 4-5 guy, which isn't slow, isn't bad. He plays fast on tape. He plays strong. He's great after the catch. If you like, an AJ Brown type guy, Traylon Burks is that type of a player who's the lead after the catch, who can win down the field. Burks is great. So lack of being a freak athlete, that shouldn't drop him too much. He's still a first-round talent, still very good. And there's the AJ Brown type upside. But yeah, I like him. I think he can do similar things to DK Metcalf as well. He's not quite the same athlete, but that doesn't mean he can't do similar things. Trevor Penning up 1 to 22. Love Trevor Penning. He's just a mauler, mean as a run blocker, and he's this great athlete, phenomenal athlete. And it should be interesting to see how he develops as a young offensive lineman in the league. Can start right away, probably at right tackle. And similarly to Evan Neal, I think you could try him out at guard as well. But he's got the size and athleticism to be an elite tackle if you can untap his full potential. Charles Cross at 23. A lot of guys have Cross a little bit higher. I know DJ's a little bit lower on him, but Cross is one of the best pass blockers in the entire draft, and I think he moves pretty well as well. I know we can see here doesn't have elite agility, but I think he moves pretty well. So I think he projects as a starter right away at left tackle, and you're not going to have a problem with him in pass pro. At least you shouldn't, based on what you saw at Mississippi State. He's a really good pass protector. Kenny Pickett is one of the risers, up 4 to 24. Has the ideal size, athleticism, and accuracy for the position. The hands are the big thing with him, but if he can play in Pittsburgh and not fumble the ball, like, who cares, right? Like, you know, inclement weather, playing at Heinz Field, it's windy. It hasn't been a problem, so why would it be a problem? Like, why would you care about Kenny Pickett's hand size when he doesn't fumble and is safe with the football, but say Daniel Jones is fine with his hand size, but he fumbles all the time. Carson Wentz fumbles all the time. You know, it's not really a big concern. A lot of people view Kenny Pickett as QB1, safest QB in the draft, and maybe doesn't have elite upside, but I think he's probably going to be pretty good. Might be in that same, like, Jimmy G type space of quarterbacks, like borderline top 15 in that range, where they're good enough, but not elite. But given the right talent around him, Kenny Pickett certainly could become a very, very good quarterback. John Dotson at 25. I wouldn't really mind that Dotson is undersized because his catch radius is so large. Like, you wouldn't expect it from a smaller guy, but man, he can go outside of his frame and get the football. It's crazy. He's really good. He's one of the better deep threats in the class as well. You know, he ran low 4.4, but he's a 4.3 type guy when you watch him play. Like, that's his speed. And if you're looking for a deep threat, you know, like, you got some good ones in this class. Dotson, Olave, Williams. It's a little bit tough to differentiate, you know, who's at the top. And I didn't name Jahan Dotson in the top 5, just naming 5 receivers off the top of my head in this draft. But Dotson is certainly in that conversation. I think 25 is fair. There's Boye Mafe moving up. Yeah, he was great at the Senior Bowl. He is a great athlete. We knew that already. Tore up the combine. Boye Mafe is projection as well. We haven't really seen him be this great pass rusher yet, but he's flashed. And at the Senior Bowl, the same way I talked up Jermaine Johnson, Boye Mafe was pretty good there as well. So I think 26 is fair. This is someone that his best football might be ahead of him still. Number 27 is Malik Willis, up 5, so he's a riser. I said that Desmond Ridder would be a riser. Malik Willis, turns out it's going to be Pickett and Willis. Willis up 5. Yeah, he's got big time potential. We know this. Great athlete, great arm, can make all the throws. It's just going to be about decision making and understanding defenses for Malik Willis. Apparently he's great on the whiteboard. Apparently interviewed really, really well. But when you watch him, and the Liberty offense really didn't do him any favors, but sometimes he just makes some throws where it's like, you got to know the safety's rotating over. You cannot throw that go ball, especially as flat as they have been sometimes, where it's an easy interception. I've seen a few of those, and it's just sometimes he just doesn't recognize what the coverage is, and it leads to just awful picks. And fact of the matter is, you just cannot do that in the NFL if you're going to be an effective QB. You just can't turn over the football the way he does sometimes. So if he can continue to develop, this is a guy who's not going to start right away. It seems like he's got a good mind for the game. So I think some of those mistakes that you see on film could start to vanish, which is what you're hoping for, of course. Kenyon Green at 28 did not have a good combine, but he's athletic, powerful on tape. It really isn't a big concern of mine because he moves really well when you actually watch him play football. So yeah, he's not this crazy tester at the combine, but he's a really good football player, and I still think he's an easy first-round pick. And if he falls to the second, that's really good value. Breece Hall, up 6, running back in the top 32 for the first time. Breece Hall could be a first-rounder. He's kind of emerging as that RB1, just because when you watch him, his patience is so great. He has the ability to follow blockers and pick the right moment to use his speed, which I didn't think anybody thought that would be sub 4.4, and then he goes out and runs like 4.38, 4.39, and you go, wow, all right, Breece Hall might have some true home run speed, and you know, we'll have to see how that continues to develop, but he's a really good player, can catch the football too. I like Kenneth Walker quite a bit. I'm interested to see where he ranks. But yeah, Breece Hall inside the top 30. I don't hate it. Andrew Booth Jr. up 1 to 30. Great ball skills, and there we see Kenneth Walker, previously unranked, now to 31. He's going by Kenny now. Yeah, Booth is great though. Great ball skills. I think if you're looking for a CB that can create turnovers, Andrew Booth Jr. could be that guy. And I still think his best football is ahead of him too. Good athlete, former 5-star recruit to Clemson, and the potential's there. We just haven't seen him start for long enough, but could end up being a really good player. Kenneth Walker, K9 at 31. I like him a lot, man. He's got great ability to hit holes quickly, and yeah, maybe the vision isn't perfect, but I think it's real good. And when you have the ability to break through tackles and run by people, that's what you're looking for in a running back. So it's tough for me to see why Kenneth Walker wouldn't be a top 50 player like he wasn't before. Finally inside the top 50, and at 31, I think that's an extremely fair ranking as Tyler Linderbaum moves down 10. Interesting. A lot of people really high on Tyler Linderbaum, including myself. Linderbaum is this great run blocker who is like the modern day NFL center, in the same way that a Jason Kelsey can get out and really move. That's Tyler Linderbaum. And he's not an elite pass blocker, but he's not bad. He projects as a starting center right away and one of the better ones in the league. And I know that sounds crazy, but as he mentions down here at the bottom, Creed Humphrey was one of the best centers in the league last year and did so as a rookie, fell in the draft big time. I don't know if teams are going to make the same mistake with Tyler Linderbaum. Yeah, Humphrey has a little bit shorter arms. Wasn't a problem. Tyler Linderbaum should be a first-round player, and I think top 32 is still very fair. Maybe even a bit low. 33, we got Quay Walker. This is LB3 in the rankings, just outside the first round here now at 33, even though this is not a mock draft, but keep in mind that's the placement. He's got great size. His thing is we just haven't really seen him be that starter for, a long time, because Georgia rotated so many guys in and out. We talked about that between Nolan Smith and Adam Anderson, who are still at Georgia as the outside linebackers, the edge guys. And you had Quay Walker, Channing Tindall, Nicoby Dean, a bunch of different guys rotating in and out, where Quay Walker has all the size, all the athleticism. It's just about seeing how he'll develop. And just like we said with a lot of these Georgia guys, yeah, his best football might be ahead of him. The same way that Trayvon Walker, Jordan Davis, Quay Walker, these guys are still developing, but they've really high ceilings. So it's worth, taking a shot at some of these guys who could project to be some of the best players in the league. 34, Zion Johnson. He's becoming the new favorite as offensive guard 1 in front of Kenyon Green for a lot. And he's moving up 7, I suppose, as a result. He's really solid, just does everything correctly. Just a clean guy. I would say that he's like close to the Trent McDuffie of the offensive line. He's just a clean prospect, and yeah, I think he's probably a first-round guy as well. 34 feels maybe a little bit low. I like Zion Johnson a lot. Number 35 is Matt Corral, moving down 1. Apparently Mike Tomlin and the Steelers really like Matt Corral. I have to see how true that is, but at 20 could be a true option, could be a real option for them. But similarly to Malik Willis, that Corral has the athleticism, has the arm talent. It's just about, seeing what he's really going to be, because RPO heavy offense at Ole Miss, we don't really know what he can do in a more pro style system, and that could limit what teams want to draft him. And he is a little bit crazy as a runner, needs to be a little bit safer. Injuries are a concern as a result of the way he plays, and if you can't play, you're not going to be valuable to a team. So Corral is going to be an interesting one, where he has the potential to be a starter for sure, but will he ever reach that? I don't know. Arnold Ebiketie at 36, like Ebiketie. No, there's a community of us that really do. He's also a little bit older. We talked about some of the older guys already. Ebiketie is one of the best edge rushers in the class, though. I think he's going to be a first-round pick. I thought that maybe he was going to get inside that top 30 of these rankings. 36 is not bad at all, but you know, some teams are not going to be rushing to take him because of his age. And that is the thing for a lot of NFL teams. So the same way that you'll be taken off a board or moved down because you have short arms or aren't fast enough, you don't meet this athletic profile or size profile. You know, a lot of teams really don't like drafting the older players. Green Bay Packers being one that comes to mind. They like to draft the younger guys that they can develop. Ebiketie, a little bit older, but is really, really good. And as DJ says here, the main concern with him is going to be, is he a 3-down player, or is he just going to be a 3rd-down guy that comes in as a pass rusher, because his run D isn't perfect, to say the least. Kyler Gordon at 17 moving down, or at 37 moving down 17. Yeah, this is an interesting one. I've talked to a lot of guys that I respect about Kyler Gordon. It's kind of mixed reviews. Big thing with Kyler Gordon is that physicality. And yeah, he's maybe not the best athlete in the world. I think 37 is a fair ranking, though. I don't think he's going to be a first-round guy, but we see players with a similar archetype, we'll say, get drafted in the back half of that first round, sneak into the first round. Gordon could be a guy who sneaks in depending on how many corners we see go. But I think he's not going to escape the top 40 in the draft. So 37 feels about perfect. Travis Jones in the top 40. I like to see it. Talked about that at the start. He's up 1 to 38. And I'm interested to see where Perry and Winfrey is. Yeah, he was really good at the Senior Bowl. Dominated the combine as well. He didn't really get the storyline because Jordan Davis was the #1. Oh my goodness, he's such an athletic defensive tackle. And then Devontae Wyatt was overshadowed despite being incredibly athletic. But Travis Jones was the true loser of the combine behind those guys because he was overshadowed despite testing like a freak. So Travis Jones, who is so big and can move so well, offers some pass rush ability as well. And being a big space eater, like Travis Jones is going to be really, really good. And he's someone that I can easily see sneaking into the first. And top 40, I think, is a real good ranking for him. And I'm excited to see where Perry and Winfrey is as you get Christian Harris at 39. Yeah, he tested really well. Linebacker class is close to see who's going to be in what order. Because, you know, there's Chad Muma, there's Leo Chenal. Some guys are kind of fighting. I'll be interested to see if any of them make the top 50. But Harris, he can really run, he can cover, and he's got some good versatility as a result. So he certainly will be extremely valuable. He's another guy just because of, like, I think Alabama background, plus athleticism, plus what he's been asked to do already. He's someone that could be a surprise back end of the first round guy on draft day, in the same way that Jordan Brooks was a first round pick. I could see Christian Harris going round 1 as well. Jalen Petrie is 40 moving down to. Petrie's a guy who plays in that overhang role on tape. If you watch him at Baylor, he's someone that is always near the line of scrimmage making plays, and that's extremely valuable. But when we saw him at the Senior Bowl, Jalen Petrie looked so good in the one-on-ones and man coverage, and I was a little bit surprised to see just how good he was. And as a result, I am starting to get real high on Jalen Petrie, real high. And I talked to Jermaine Johnson, talked up some of these guys that killed the Senior Bowl. Jalen Petrie was really, really good. I don't really think got the necessary buzz, but he's this guy that can play in that overhang role the way we talked about Daxton Hill or Trent McDuffie. They can play like a hybrid slot corner, and yeah, they're not big like a Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. That's like a hybrid linebacker. But Petrie's someone that I think you can move him all around and be really, really happy as a result. Like if you're looking for a Kyle Hamilton type, but can't get Kyle Hamilton and want to spend a second round pick on a player, Jalen Petrie, I think, is your guy. 41 is Tyler Smith, down 11. He's another guy who DJ keeps saying could be a first round guy. Could be a guard, big mauling offensive lineman. And it's kind of the same way with like Ekwonu. He's just not as polished, but he's a mauler. He's a good athlete, and his best football could be ahead of him. We keep saying that, but that's true with some of these high upside guys where they have correctable errors, and given the right offensive line coach and development, yeah, could be a really, really good player. 42 is Bernard Ryman. Yeah, we talked about him a lot. Foreign exchange student from Austria. receiver, tight end, move to offensive tackle, and then is only still learning how to play offensive tackle, but is still already really good with his hands. And had an interesting combine as well, where he wasn't quite as fast as expected, but was stronger than expected. And that was just peculiar, because you've seen the speed aspect of his game if you watch him on tape. He's a good athlete, moves really, really well, but still developing as a tackle. And he's another guy whose best football is ahead of him. But like, this is actually true. He's still developing, and it's amazing that he's so good already. Because if he continues at this rate, wow, like, he could be incredible. 43's Nick Bonito into the top 50. First time seeing this. Nick Bonito is like similar to Drake Jackson in a lot of ways, where they were, like, hyped up at the start of the year, kind of dropped off a little bit. Still really good athletes. Definitely like 3-4 outside linebackers. Bonito inside the top 50. I did not expect to see this, but I'm interested in it. He looked good at Oklahoma. Of course, as a Texas fan, I've seen him quite a bit. Although I have not gotten into the All-22 on him yet. I haven't really gotten to as many edge rushers as I would want right now. But man, Bonito, seeing him inside the top 50 is interesting. Yeah, high upside player. Skye Moore at 44. Like Skye Moore a lot. Is a willing blocker, which is something that's great for someone that's a little bit smaller. Has big hands, so I really wouldn't worry about the size. I think he could be a starter in the slot right away. Really explosive. I think his 10-yard split was the fastest of anybody at the combine, from what I saw. So Skye Moore can run. He's explosive, and he is someone that can play an impact right away. Like Skye Moore a lot. 45 is Christian Watson, another guy who killed the combine. He's into the top 50. Watson, like, really didn't show a lot at North Dakota State. Just didn't. And their offense wasn't designed to get him the football. He was running pretty much only like 9 routes and curls. Like, his route tree was not very advanced. It was straight up or straight up and back. That's pretty much what it was. So what is his true role going to be? What can he do? There are some questions there. But from a size and speed perspective, there are absolutely no question marks at all. He's been a returner at North Dakota State. He's agile enough, and he was really, really, really tough to cover at the Senior Bowl in a similar way that Terry McLaurin was when he was there. So I'm high on Christian Watson as a result of that. It's the same reason that I like a lot of these guys, is because they showed what they can do against some of the other best talent in the draft at the Senior Bowl. They do a great job getting talent every single year. And the guys who really stand out and shine above the rest, those guys turn into pretty good players a lot of the time. Christian Watson absolutely in that same conversation. On that same note, I'm wondering if we'll see Calvin Austin in here from Memphis. But he's not 46. That's Lewis Cine, the safety out of Georgia. Cine was another guy who tore up the combine. He's got great size, and he is as physical as anybody in the draft at his position. And you got a lot of safeties that love to come up and hit. Lewis Cine, Nick Cross from Maryland. Cine is a monster. He plays very, very fast. Closing speed's crazy. Lewis Cine's going to be a safety that starts right away in the league. I love him. At 47 is David Ajabo, dropping a lot. 29 spots to 47. Yeah, tore his Achilles at his pro day. Hate to see it. We talked about him a lot on this channel. He's got really high upside. And in the same way, like you like a Boye Mafe, you like David Ajabo. And Ajabo is arguably way better as a prospect because of his age. He's way younger. He's already flashed the ability. He's got a great spin move. He's flashed the ability to develop a pass rush plan and put that into place. And he's still very new to football and the position. So I'm excited about the potential of David Ajabo. The reason he's dropped 29 spots is because he might not even play at all in 2022. So hate to see it for Ajabo. He certainly seems like a really awesome guy. And I think a team could get a real steal with wherever he ends up going, probably round 2. 48 is Sam Howell, dropping 1 spot. Howell still has potential, man. He's got a big arm. I call him like baby Baker Mayfield. And I think everyone's low on Baker right now, but remember that Baker was the #1 overall pick in the draft for a reason. And Sam Howell has a similar play style, similar size, and he's more athletic. So there's something to work with Sam Howell. And yeah, is he going to start right away? Certainly not. But if he gets the reins, which I eventually think Sam Howell will be a starting quarterback in the league, he could be quite good. 49 is Perrion Winfrey. Wanted to see him in the top 50, and here he is. Another guy who was great at the Senior Bowl, especially in the game, won the MVP, and is a great athlete. He ran sub 4.9, maybe even pulled his hamstring at the end of the run as well. I think he was 4.86. We already knew he's a freak athlete. Dude's big, dude is built, doesn't really look like a defensive tackle, but has the size, has the explosiveness, still developing a little bit in terms of a football player. He's a little bit more of an athlete right now, but man, it's tough not to like the potential of Winfrey going forward. He is a good player. At number 50 is Logan Hall, another guy who I've been high on. Talked about Logan Hall. I've mocked him inside the first round. He's got big time potential, man. Logan Hall, inside outside guy, can play an edge in a 4-3, I think, slide him inside on occasion. It just depends what you want your defense to be. But this is a guy who has the size and the speed to play 3-4 defensive end and be one of the better ones in the league, probably, if he meets that potential, which of course that's a big question. But man, I like Logan Hall. I like the size. I like the bull rush especially. And he is someone I think NFL teams will like quite a bit as well. So I think he's going to go higher than expected. Will he be a first-round guy? Remains to be seen. But I think he's going to be someone that ends up sneaking into the first round in a similar way that maybe a Peyton Turner did out of Houston last year. Or Marcus Davenport, who went middle of the first round. And then dropping out, we have Isaiah Spiller. He tested horribly. DeMarvin Leal didn't test great, didn't test bad. He's a bit of a tweener, I would say. I think Leal has great potential, but we'll have to see. Greg Dulcich just dropping out, so no tight ends. Daniel Faalele dropping out as well. Big size, but reasonable. And then Kaiir Elam as well, who is starting to get a little bit of hype again. So this is interesting. So I expected to see a tight end or two, but no Dulcich, no Trey McBride. But we did get a couple of running backs, and we did get the D tackles I was looking for. Did get the safeties, although no Nick Cross, but I'm not exactly surprised by that. But overall, obviously, quite a good list and a really interesting perspective at where NFL teams might be on these guys as well. So that'll do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Take it easy. See me high step to the end zone. My life like a game Nintendo. Playing with the best, let them know. Get off the track, the train's coming through. Yeah. Promise you get in my way, then you best believe I'ma just run over you. Yeah. Papa turn taking it back to the house. Defensive joke, I'm laughing so loud. Speed burst good.